guys ready? Hey, back on the green screen, back live. Last week, unfortunately, I had a meeting that conflicted with my normal time here. Tried to find a time where that wouldn't happen. Something landed right on top of it. So I'm here this week. No complications this week. So I wanted to talk to you guys, go over today's post. I am incredibly proud of this post, not only for the content, which I definitely love, but the fact that I literally turned this thing around in about 24 hours. That was quite the effort, but I felt good about this one. I really like this one, so I wanted to do that, and I'm happy I was able to get it done. So what are we talking about today? Today's article is on driving Jira adoption. System adoption or process adoption is the process you go through in a company where you introduce a new system, in this case Jira, and try and get people to start using it. It is a tricky process sometimes, especially in this particular case as described, so I go over some tips and tricks to kind of help you with that. I got this message yesterday morning when I woke up from a reader. They've asked to remain anonymous, so I won't identify them, but here we go. Hi, all the best in the new year. I need help with my current job. I wondered whether you would be able to help. I've been working with Jira as an admin/consultant/project manager for 3 years now and have just started in a new role. Excellent start. They have a good bit of experience. They're moving on to bigger and better things. Let's continue reading. The company I have just joined is attempting to change. They'd like to become more structured with the way they work and be more agile. Part of this is roll out Jira across the board. This effort is why I have been hired. Okay, so this company is looking to be more agile. For some reason, they equate more agile with we use Jira. I think I saw this in a joke once talking about job interviews where they say if they're agile, it means they use Jira. And honestly, this is really what some companies think, so I'm not surprised to hear. They continue. Some of the issues I'm faced with are extremely non-technically proficient users. Basically, users who are used to pen and paper, they're not used to doing the way business work the way business has been done for the past 30 years. There's work that's going to be involved with having a non-technical user base. Overly complex organization or process. This usually goes along with the first point. You have a non-technical user base. They're going to find ways to do things that need to be done anyway. So usually they'll find ways that are convoluted because that's the way you have to do it when you're working with pen and paper sometimes. It's a challenge. Resistance to change / political environment. This is a big red flag for me because this means you're going to be fighting some people tooth and nail to get onto Jira. And I talk about some of the tips and tricks later on that I had used to deal with these people, but these people are going to have to be dealt with eventually. Leadership does not really grasp the scope of the change, and that using Jira does not suddenly make everything agile. I already talked about this. This is a common misconception that if you use Jira, you have to be agile because Jira is the agile tool. Jira is not an agile tool. It's a project management tool. It's a program management tool. It's used to figure out what needs to be done and organize that work. Agile is one methodology you can use to do that, but you don't have to do it agile in Jira. So, this is what they're faced with. I consider myself an expert in terms of configuring, using, and administering Jira. Okay, so I don't need to talk at that point, so I just need to talk to the challenges of getting other people to use Jira. However, the possible scale of tasks is starting to daunt me. And although I'm very motivated by the challenge in helping this company get itself organized and bring it into the 21st century. So, I guess I wanted to ask you if you had any practical insights you might have on any of this, perhaps from personal experience. and then they give his salutation, sign out, and then everything. I decided to cut that part off. But this is a reader. Said that flattery definitely gets you anywhere. Ego boosts are definitely always appreciated. But yeah, this is a challenge. This is a challenge I faced myself. The job I was let go from when I started the Jira Guy blog and started posting regularly, it was a similar case. I was driving adoption of company, and I managed to get pretty far until they decided priority was elsewhere. And I made a few key mistakes myself that I actually give you as advice here, so you avoid the mistakes I made. Everyone say hi to Rivet. He decided to visit me while I was on chat or on stream. Rivet likes everything her way. So if you force things, she's going to run. Kind of use that, but normally if I was just here working, I'd sit here and let her do her thing. Alright. So what you find yourself in a situation, you're trying to drive change and drive adoption at a company. What do you do? Well, the first thing they mentioned is they were overwhelmed, daunted by the scale of the ask. And yeah, it is a huge ask, bringing the entire company into Jira. That is a massive undertaking, even for a small company, especially when you're going to be teaching people from the ground up. So my first piece of advice is just take it one team at a time. This is the Jira model of doing things. We take a task, we break it down, we break it down, we break it down, eventually till we get to an individual work item, then we work on that. This is the same concept. We take it down to a team, and then we start on our process and a journey with that team. So we go through, we work on that, we bring them in, we tell them what Jira is, we teach them the different terminology, we tell them about workflows and projects and all this, and then we start getting them into and getting their project defined. Ideally, we would like to start putting those best practices for custom fields, schemes, and such, but we're going to be working with teams that don't know Jira, so we're going to have some flexibility ourselves, and even if that does involve taking on a bit of tech debt, as long as we're reasonable and we're consistent about it, and we know what the policies are, what the best practices are, and we guide our teams through that, we're going to be doing well. So that's the first bit of advice I gave, is just take it one team at a time. You are just one person. Likely with this type of rollout, even if you can use more help, you're not likely going to have the buy-in and the networking and the connections to get that person in there just yet. You kind of have to prove what the system is worth before they're willing to invest more into it. So definitely do that. Second thing to consider is the Jira should slot into each team with as little friction as possible. What do I mean here? Well, the naysayers, the people who are entrenched in Jira is the worst, is just a waste of time, I don't have time for this. Their thought is, this is going to cost me time. And to be fair, this might come from a genuine place. They may have been on a Jira in a previous organization that was not configured well, was not kept up, and it cost them time. Negative impressions don't come from a vacuum, they come from somewhere. So you need to start addressing that from day one. When you design these projects, yeah, you should follow the best practices, trying to use as few schemes and as few workflows and as few custom fields, all that is possible. But you need to have some flexibility yourselves to adapt the project to what the team is doing, so they could they have an easier time adopting it, and the people who are like, this is the worst thing ever, have less ammo to use against you. At the same time, ask them questions about their workflow. Ask them why they do certain things the way they do. likely they'll have a reason, or if they don't, they'll realize they don't by you asking why, and that opens up the door to conversation of how you might be able to do it better, more efficiently, less work, more automation, all that. So definitely be engaged in their workflow. Ask them why they are doing the things they do, and use that as your foot in the door to get positive change in there. So when they do go to Jira, it is easier than what they're doing today. The people who don't like Jira don't have a leg to stand on. This next one, I kind of put these in this order for a reason. Have your executive team start using Jira for their direct teams. This one is a big hint, or big tip, because it accomplishes multiple things in one go. The first thing is this team by team approach is going to take time. You're not going to have an overnight success. It's going to be a lot of work to get all the teams on board, because you're going to have to go to them one by one and do the work to get them on board. So start with your executive team. Start at the top. Show them the process that you're going to be using for all the other teams. Show them how they can manage their workflow, how they can manage their employees' workflows or their direct reports workflow. Show them what Jira can do at its best. Now, you have to understand that this is where you're going to have to make this as frictionless as possible. Executives see themselves as very busy people, and for the most part, yeah, they are. They are constantly doing things. They don't need more hassle. So you're going to have to make Jira really, really work for them. This is probably going to be the hardest group of any you work with, but getting them in there early, letting them understand what metrics they can actually pull out from Jira, what Agile actually is, and the full process and the ceremonies around it. The whole kit and caboodle gets you a lot of things early on in the project. First thing is it gets you a lot of goodwill, because the sponsors are already in the tool. They see what you're going to do. They know what you're going to do to take care of everyone else, because they've already been there. So it buys you a lot of goodwill right out the gate. So that helps them understand what you're going to be doing. Second is it does get you that goodwill. I mean, as I said here, you paid so much attention to their needs, you're going to do the same with every other team in the company, right? Because you are, because that's the process. And lastly, and this is the dirty little trick, is people are going to be less likely to speak out about Jira when they hear that their boss's boss's boss is already using Jira. When they know the guy at the top is using the system and is having success with it, that's going to quiet a lot of the murmurs down. So definitely get your team in there earlier. Another thing you need to do, because right now it is all on you. You need to find your allies. You need to find the people in the company who either have previous experience with Atlassian products or previous project management experience, so you can show them what Jira can do, or they could get that, or you need to find the people who are going to help you evangelize to the rest of the company. How do you go about that? Well, the next part of this is going to be on education anyways. Have lunch and learns, have events that would attract these kind of people to you, make them widely known, have them on different days of the week throughout the month, so that you get to know these people even if they're busy at a particular time. Figure out who they are, what they do, what team are they working on, what are their needs, what do they like about the current process, what don't they like about the current process. Get them on your side as early as possible, because the more people you have speaking the good word for you, the less work you have to do directly when it comes time to actually go to these teams. So definitely find your allies and find them quickly. Next point, I've already mentioned it, is education. You've got to be teaching people from day one. These people don't know what Jira is. Some of these people are going to have problems even working the basic technology. I've always wondered about people who are so entrenched in the past that they don't learn modern business tools. It's like having a plumber refusing to learn how to use the spanner wrench because a crescent wrench is good enough. I mean, that's a bad example, but still, a plumber not wanting to learn their tools, or electrician not wanting to learn how to use a pair of pliers. That doesn't happen because you have to use those tools. Same with business. So some people, though, in business are going to have to be drugged in. You're going to have to teach them. You're going to have to be willing to even go back to your help desk to teach them with the basics of how do you open your web browser, how do you get to the site, how do you log in. All these basic things that they may need help with. This is actually how I started with the concept behind the blog. I was doing these kind of blog posts for education within the company, and my manager went, "Hey, these are really good. You should do a blog." And then she made it one of my quarterly goals. That set up the space. So when I was laid off, I'm like, "Oh, I have this space I'm going to prove I am a good Jira admin by posting articles." Here we are, 2 years later. That saying said, you've got to be as much a teacher as an admin. You've got to teach people how to use Jira and how to use it best. That way we don't get into situations where you have a messy configuration because everybody's kind of doing their own things. The wonderful thing about this situation where you're coming in with a clean instance is you get to set the best practices early, and people don't have a chance to let it get into the horrific state you see some homegrown organic Jira instances in. But that said, you've got to be, if you accept this kind of role, it's assumed you're going to be as much teacher and trainer as you are an admin. My next point kind of feeds into this. You've got to be communicating constantly. You don't want to ever get to the point where people are asking, "Hey, what are you up to?" Or "When will you get to my team?" Or "I've heard something about Jira. What's going on there?" You want people to be informed of the process and know what's going on, not be surprised. So communicate often. Use the tools like the Confluence blog. Put out newsletters to companies. And here's the type of things you would include in there. Boast about things you've accomplished in the past week. Talk about the team who just went live with Jira and is now using it for the process. Talk about the success stories where a automation is saving a team time. Do these things so that people could see what's going on and see every reason people should be using Jira. Because by doing that, each time you're planting a seed in their mind. They're going, "Oh, Jira did this for this team. Oh, Jira did that for that team." When it comes time for them, they're going to see all these good things you've done. They're going to be excited and they're going to be ready to jump on. Because they know you're going to be taking care of them because they've read the stories where you're taking care of other teams. Along with that communication, you have to have the metrics. You have to understand what you're doing, how many teams you have left to do, how many teams have you done, what is the satisfaction on those teams, how many problems did you solve in the past week. You have to have all these kind of metrics to give to teams because you're trying to build trust that, hey, I'm the expert, I know what I'm doing, I'm going to take care of you. I am your guide to get you to a good configuration. Add this quote I've used previously earlier in the article. Jira is infinitely configurable, which means there are infinite ways for you to mess up a configuration. It's absolutely true. There are so many pitfalls along the route, but you being an expert, you know what those are already. You know where to tread carefully and what paths to avoid. So definitely have those metrics, record them, publish them every week with your newsletter or your blog post or whatever you choose to do so people could see where you are, where you're going, and what your success is. Along with those metrics, get feedback. Have people take surveys after they cut over and start using your product. Get questionnaires, get that feedback so you know what's going on. If it's positive feedback, absolutely use that. If you get a great review, reprint it in your newsletter, with permission, of course. If you show a positive trend, show that in the data. Make sure if you have positive feedback, you use it. Likewise, negative feedback, don't just sit on it. It's so easy to assume that if someone gives you negative feedback, they were never going to like Jira to start with, and they were just a lost cause. That is not the attitude to have. What you need to do is you need to go to that person and figure out what their actual problem is and solve that. Prove that no matter what they come up with, you have a solution. Now, it may still get to the point where they're just never going to be happy, but the more they do it, the more they incriminate themselves. And the better you look, because no matter what they come up with, you still came up with a solution. Is this going to be easy? No. And there may be times where you actually run into the limitations of the product. Where I could do that, but we're going to need a plugin and it's going to cost this amount. That's just the nature of Jira. A lot of companies don't understand that. They've paid all this money for the solution already. Why do they have to pay more? Because I've already gone into all the reasons why the app marketplace exists. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to explain to them these different concepts and get them to a place where they are happy. If it's really important they have this plugin, advocate for it to whoever holds the purse strings. Explain to them what the need is, how many people in the company can benefit from this, all that. But don't let negative feedback just go unanswered, because that is the worst thing you could do. That's how you get a massive negative perception throughout the company. So I finish up there. That's basically my advice for having it. Talked about some areas where I messed up on my Jira adoption story. The first place I messed up is I did not get the executive team involved. My first Jira instance, when they were going through their agile transformation before I got there and before I started on Jira, they actually did this. So I knew about this, but for some reason I didn't quite remember it at the time, and I could never get executive buy-in because they were not on the tool. Maybe if I had pushed that a little more, maybe if I started with them or after some of the other teams I did, or some of the other teams that were already in Jira, we'd be a lot further along. Here we are. Yeah, I mean, leaving that company led me to start the blog, so it is not a bad thing I left, but I still feel if I had done this, the story probably would have turned out differently for me. I was doing the education, but I really wasn't communicating as constantly as I could. That's another thing. I did not have metrics to show what teams were on and off Jira. I mean, I had them in my head, but I wasn't publishing them. I wasn't showing them. I wasn't doing those emails. So that was another place where I fell short, and that really impacted the ultimate performance of the project. So a lot of these things are things I've learned the hard way. The things I did do successfully is I did focus down on one team. I brought one team into Confluence or Jira. I taught them how to use it. I worked with them. I got them over speed hump, and then I moved on to the next team. Some teams were better than others. Still amazed me how sales could fly through Salesforce, no problem. Front, back, they know that. But when I tried to show them the same thing in Jira, just a workflow. That's a concept in Salesforce, but it's also in Jira, and they could not understand that. I'm like, this is the same thing. What are you not getting? Rants aside, I am really proud of this article. I just got into a flow. I started writing, and it just flowed. I saw a tweet from Theodora over at Old Street yesterday. I believe it was Theodora. No, it was Nikki. She was replying to a tweet. Nikki with Jexo.io. She was this tweet was saying most bloggers could write a 50 or 1,000 word article in 10 minutes. What are these people on? I'm not it was a 1,000 word article in an hour. What are these people on? It wasn't quite an hour for me. This was about 2,000 word article. I spent about an hour and a half on it. So it's doing a little bit better than that quote. But when you get in that zone and you know what you're doing and you know you have that plan, it just kind of flows. I loved how this article came together, and I was able to turn around really quickly because of that. So I'm very happy with this article. I hope you guys learned something, take these lessons, because even if you're not doing a whole digital transformation in a company, these still help you when you're onboarding a new team, or you're onboarding a new department, or whatever you're doing. So, great article. Hope you guys read it. Moving on. So, if you guys have any questions in chat, I'll happily answer them. English, please. I have a real hard problem with languages, so if you could stick with English, I'd very much appreciate that. But any questions you have, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, we're going to be taking a look at the Atlassian community, and I'm moving on. I kind of pre-filtered some questions that seemed interesting to me. I see some of them already been answered while I was explaining the article. So we'll go over the question, and if I can add anything to the conversation, I will, but otherwise I'll read the answer, make sure that makes sense for what's going on here, and move on. Alright, so this one. I have a problem with Jira's obligatory organization field. I'm assuming that's obligatory. I don't know, but that's the assumption I'm making. Looking at this customer, they are a cloud using the Jira Service Management Cloud. And just based off the title alone, I'm assuming this is a required field problem, which we can work with. So let's read the question. Hi, my support team and I are having an issue with the organization Jira required field. Theoretically, whenever a client of ours opens a ticket in our service desk, the field should be filled in automatically with the organization that this client is inserted in. But often this does not happen. How can we adjust so this behavior is adjusted? What should I do? Excuse me. Alright, so it looks like they have some sort of automatic field that takes the organization from the user's email address and does some sort of post-processing to put that into a field. That way they can sort the users based on where they're from. That is what it looks like here. So let's see if Pramod agreed with me here and what they gave as answer. So you mean to say, based on the user who belongs to an organization, have the organization value populated automatically when the user creates a ticket. If so, please try out the automation provided here for your requirement. It gives a link to another community post. Let's jump through here, see what this community post is. Alright, so it looks like they already have this. So yeah, some pretty detailed answers going through here. Answer was accepted from a team member for Atlassian. Add the option to add on the edit issue action. Please go to automation on actions, select edit issue, and add the selected fields. Use fields instead, or request participants, so on and so forth. So yeah, it seems like that's a pretty good answer. I'm going to upvote the answer, but I'm not going to apply. I'm going to boost Pramod here, or Pramod, because I think their answer is spot on. Question correctly. do what you require. Fly. Alright. Second question I have pre-picked, and then we'll start going through the list. So looking for a way to quickly audit users by role in Jira Data Center. They are a server or a data center customer on Jira software. They're looking for some help with user management. Depending on what the question actually is, there's a plugin that might help them get what they're looking for, but let's actually read the question before we jump to conclusions. So far, this has 0 answers. Currently, there is no quick way to audit users by role in Jira Data Center. Even with the user list, does not show what projects and roles they are part of within the system. We can do database query, but we are looking for a quicker, repeatable way to be able to query users, inactive, user space roles, etc. It'd be great if there was an option for user manager screen or even an audit log to be able to query through the admin dashboard as opposed to sysadmin do the query. Has anyone experienced it this way, or so bad news is there's not really a great way to do this in vanilla Jira. So I know of 2 apps that might help in this situation. The first one is from Tech Time. User Management for Jira by Tech Time. This is a great one for querying specific users based off different roles, different things. Whatever way, it has 9,000 different ways to sort users into the system. So this would be my first recommendation. My second one, and this is probably not going to be a surprise because it was my first ever review of an app. I went to an Atlassian community event here in Atlanta, heard all about this, went, I have to tell people about this. People have to know, and it became my first review. It's Power Admin from Botron, now an AppFire company. I'd love to say this one was a free solution. I would just hand it off to them if it was, but as of last year, I think, maybe the year before, it is now a paid product. That is the way of the marketplace. So this would be my first recommendation, actually, because this does exactly what they're looking to do. Yeah. That is Anne-Marie Saucier-Nall. That is quite the name. Are they new? They're not new. Unfortunately, I am not aware of any way to do this with base Jira. However, there are a number of apps might be able to help you with this kind of audit. My first recommendation would be Power Admin from Botron. I know it can turn what you are looking for, and is definitely worth at least trialing. Add the link there for both Power Admin. The second is user management for Jira by Tech Time. I've used both these apps. This one is one of the best for filtering managing users. Use this in a lot of user cleanup to deactivate, that's the word I want. Users who are not using tool. 2, 3 those who are. And then we include the link for that one. Answer. All right, so that's 2 down. Let's see if we can find any more. Get a good refresh on here. Close this one out. I'll get to that when I close down, and probably going to be on the stream for another 10 minutes or so. Yes, I won the lottery. I know about the kudos. I love this new system, but I really hate that nag. Alright. So, looking at this. Question. Can I make customer notifications look like standard emails? I'm pretty sure. Yep, cloud service management. I'm gonna not touch that one just yet. Email and service management is not my forte. How do I show all my tickets on the backlog if I have backlog, or on the compound if I have backlog activated? 12 views, 20 minutes ago, no answers. How is this one no answers? Alright, so they are on cloud. Let's load up our cloud instance. Service desk, purchase orders, Scrum. I have a Kanban board here. I do not have a Kanban board. You know what? When in doubt, create a new project. Kappa Delta, Kanban project. Alright. Board settings, columns, backlog, there it is. Exactly the screen I need to go to. So. Alright, so. Hello at Super Green. It's actually fairly easy to disable the backlog again within a Kanban board. First click the ellipsis on your board, then go to board settings. Pause here while I capture screenshot. Ruler, grab my red pen, underline, copy, paste. You're not gonna let me paste, are you? I'm gonna have to save this. Alright. Save. picture, choose file, open. Now we wait for the picture to upload, then we insert it and make sure it's sized appropriately. Once there, go to columns on the left hand side bar and remove the that is from the column, place it create a board. I want board settings. Let's show them what I mean. Do a fun little here or here. Columns. Save. Do that. Get a new screenshot. Save. Go back and let's put these last two in. How confusing is it that it has both a backlog deal, but a backlog column? One last picture. Picture really is worth 1,000 words. And answer. All right, so we got 2 questions answered, and we got one more kind of confirming the answer that's already given. I think this is where I'm going to have to call it, unfortunately. I've got some other things to do tonight, so I've got to leave the stream just a wee bit early. Before we go, though, I do want to highlight 2 YouTube channels that I really think you guys should be paying attention to. The first one started up late last year. I've been following him as he's been posted on Twitter and on the Facebook Atlassian Jira group. It's Tech Tutorials, and he has been doing some great breakdowns of getting started in Jira, understanding what Jira is, the different things about, particularly Jira Cloud especially, but how to use the various features in Jira. Absolutely recommend him. So that's my first recommendation. Second one is from community leader Jimmy Seddon. It's Jimmy Talks Jira, and said another fantastic channel. He's whereas Tech is going more, I'm bringing you from the ground up. Jimmy is like, okay, I know you know something about Jira, so I'm going to take you from that intermediate level to that expert level. So 2 different levels. They definitely both coexist within the same space. So if you haven't checked them out yet, absolutely fantastic channels. I've been enjoying watching them. I've managed to learn a few things from Jimmy's channel, but just understanding Apex's telling of how to get started on Jira. I really like how he does it. He definitely goes very much in depth with it, so absolutely follow him as well, especially if you're just starting out on your Jira journey. Other than that, hope you guys have a good evening, and I'll talk with you next week.